with little patience for Barnaby Joyce, and a lot of you calling for him to be sacked, but not everybody. One listener says, how about compassion for politicians? They live away from home to service. Maybe extra travel allowances to their families to visit Canberra more often is the right answer. I don't know. There's a lot of public support for that position. Do stay with us. Coming up, we're going to be joined by Anna Bligh, Chief Executive, ongoing with a former staffer. Labor will today almost certainly move to pressure the Prime Minister over this matter. And questions are being asked too within National Party circles over Barnaby Joyce's future as party leader and Deputy Prime Minister. One MP quoted as describing white-hot anger in the electorate over this affair. Michelle Grattan's in our Parliament House studios. Michelle, good morning.
Hi, Fran.
Well, the jungle drums are getting louder around Barnaby Joyce. Unnamed nationals picking up on white-hot anger. The Fin Review is reporting that party elders John Anderson and Larry Anthony have been in crisis talks. How precarious do you think this has become for Barnaby Joyce?
I think much depends on what comes out in the next few days about the former staffer's exact working conditions or working arrangements after she was transferred out of Barnaby Joyce's office. She went to Matt Cannavan's office and then later to the office of the then whip Damien Drum. Now, there have been suggestions that positions were created, that she was paid a large increase. It will come down, I think, to those details in the short term. In the longer term, there's no doubt that there's a lot of concern in the Nationals about how this will go down in their general constituency. Barnaby Joyce, of course, has been a very strong asset for the party, did well at the election, much better proportionately than Malcolm TurningBull. But whether gloss goes off him as a retail politician is something that's concerning in the Nationals. Also, I think there's the question of how much this whole matter will affect his overall performance. It's been pretty up and down recently. Will he regroup and get on a steady course or not? And that will also be taken into account by his colleagues in the medium term.
And Labor is trying to drag the Prime Minister into this. They're demanding a statement from the Prime Minister about the staff appointments. Already, Finance Minister Matthias Cormann over the weekend has had to defend this, saying, all my advice is that everything was absolutely above board. If the PM is somehow dragged into this, even though the PMO, the Prime Minister's office, says we didn't have to approve these changes of staffing or anything like that, how much will that change the political dynamics of this controversy?
Well, it would change it a lot. The arrangement seems to be that the PMO ticks off on the various staff arrangements for National Party members and or ministers in particular, but it doesn't get involved in the detail, and that it's been denied that Malcolm TurningBull, in fact, had a role in these particular arrangements. It was interesting that at the weekend, Barnaby Joyce put out a statement saying that it wasn't discussed with Malcolm TurningBull. I think that clearly Malcolm TurningBull has been pretty agitated about this and wanted it made very clear that he had no part in it.
Won't be happy either. They're starting to crowd out his agenda at the start of the year.
Well, especially when he was starting the year better than he'd really been in several months.
Crossbencher Cathy McGowan, we've spoken about this last week. She wants to talk about a ban on relationships between politicians and their staff. Now, Michelle, guidelines is one thing. Laws banning this is a different matter in my view, but guidelines is probably a good idea. Make it clear to all concerned.
Well, I think Cathy McGowan was saying, let's open up for conversation the conditions under which staff operate in ministerial offices. Now, the government and indeed Labor people too were very quick to dismiss this, and of course it came in the wake of a law passed by the House of Representatives in the United States last week, which put such a ban on. But I don't think Cathy McGowan is talking particularly about a law, but it seems to me that it's a bit unwise for politicians to be dismissive even of a conversation, because it's just out of tune with the times. We are seeing tighter rules in big companies, and I think that there is a risk that politicians will be seen as saying, well, it's all right what's done in the rest of the world, but for us, these things shouldn't apply.
Yeah.
So the conversation would be better kept on the agenda by the main parties, I would have thought, than dismissed in this way.
And Michelle, on the eve of the 10-year anniversary of the apology to the stolen generation, the PM will release this year's Closing the Gap statement. It will show some improvement, but still a long way to go. Do you think Malcolm TurningBull needs to do more to seem to be focused on these issues?
There's always a need to do more. There's no doubt about that. And of course, the past year has been disappointing on the question of Indigenous recognition. But with these very practical areas, I think that a renewed effort is important.
You could hear the bicky bag rattling, couldn't you? Yes, 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 you can have a bicky too. You can have a few of them, actually. I was trying to figure out how old this old girl is, and I think she's about 22 years old at the moment. Her mother died of a broken leg in 2002, and she was this one was about 5 years old, and she led me to her mother's corpse. So yeah, I think she's about 22. I have no idea how old a swamp wallaby can grow to become. But anyway, yeah, we started this video looking at kangaroos through the door and listening to Radio National describe the latest developments in Barnaby Joyce's career. Apparently, a lot of National Party politicians are being told by their grassroots supporters that if Barnaby Joyce is still the leader when the next election is called, then they will not be handing out how to vote cards. They won't be campaigning or letterboxing or doing anything to support Barnaby Joyce because the National Party is pretty strong on family values, and Barnaby Joyce campaigned on his Christian, conservative, moral majority family values. So the fact that he's abandoned his wife and 4 daughters so that he can go and live in Canberra with his pregnant girlfriend, who he apparently illegally organised 2 different jobs at increasingly higher salaries each time after he had to kick her out of his office because their relationship had become known in April last year. Now the timeline's pretty interesting. April last year, he had to shift his girlfriend out of his office. June last year, Barnaby's wife Natalie didn't know that half of Canberra was aware that Barnaby had been screwing his painted secretary back in April. So Natalie went with Barnaby to the winter parliamentary ball in Canberra, and while she was down there, somebody apparently told her just what it is that 2 rabbits do when they're under the eider down. So presumably she spent some time talking to somebody else and lined her ducks up in a row and got a bit of evidence. But in July or August, Natalie kicked Barnaby out. This is while his citizenship stuff was rolling, and he campaigned and didn't tell anybody in the electorate anything about his girlfriend or anything like that until after he had been re-elected by the moral majority, family value, conservative voting National Party in New England. He deliberately hid his personal private peccadillos. Yes, it's nasty, isn't it? Yes. And the funny thing is, Barnaby's baby is due in April, so you count backwards 9 months from that, And what you've got is a situation where he literally ran from his wife to his mistress's love nest, and because Barnaby Joyce is such a good Catholic, he immediately got his girlfriend pregnant. That's the timeline, isn't it? April, half of Canberra knew that he was screwing his painted secretary. June, his wife went to the parliamentary winter ball with him at Parliament House. July, August, Barnaby goes to live with his girlfriend. Barnaby's baby's due in April. What a dickhead. What an actual dickhead. Little head rules the big head. Isn't he, eh? Barnaby Joyce the dickhead. The hypocritical dickhead. Ooh. Reflection off the polished aluminium back of the mobile phone. Is that what it was that spooked you? Anyway, that's the story of Barnaby Joyce the dickhead up to the moment, as at 8:25 on the 12th of February. Warbles on a lot to YouTube. Ciao.